Welcome back to the channel. My name's Brad and Supercoach Pro. Today's video we are doing the 2022 season Supercoach team picker. So we'll get stuck straight into it with Jakey Lloyd. I think he had a fantastic season last year. Probably really undervalued in my opinion. I think he can go a little bit higher now that Dawson is gone. Aaron Hall last year, if you didn't have him, he would have been killing you. He played really well. I think him and Zeba linked up really well last year, and I can't see them not doing the same. Aaron Hall, they just look to give it to him every time, and he always is that guy to shoot that 35-meter, 40-meter pass. It just hits him on the chest every time. So really like his price and what he can actually produce in the back line here. The only other guy around his price that's really tempting this year is probably Jack Crisp. He's playing a midfield role. Could probably score very similar, but actually has a better defensive midfield swing. So that's something I'm really tossing up between is those two players. Could also go someone like a Jordan Dawson, though his back half of the year was absolutely unbelievable. A smoky, if you're looking for one, is probably Jaden Short now that Hall is retired. Could really go off the chain. And if you just wanted to play it safe, you're probably picking someone like a Bailey Dale. Anyway, that's not here nor there. Back to my actual side. Ridley is the guy I'm going to pick for my third premium defender. I think if you look at his last year's start to the year, he actually played really well until he got the concussion and just never really looked the same after that. Still finished top 10. But I think he will really produce a great season. Jake Kelly coming across from Adelaide. I'm hoping that in the Bombers lineup, he actually takes that lockdown role and frees up Ridley. So just keep an eye out in the preseason where he plays, if he's that interceptor or if he's actually a lockdown player this year. As for the rookies, these are just placeholders really. I mean, we know a bit about each of these players. I'm not really keen about this guy, Sin. Port Adelaide's lineup is really hard to break through, and even if he does get a few games, they're probably not going to be consistent. As in terms of back-to-back games. I'm a little bit worried about this pick. I'm hoping some other rookies come through that we've heard about, such as Gould, Will Kelly. There is a few players, Marchbank, that I've been looking at, but these players we won't really know until you sort of see a couple of the pracky matches. Wayne Moira is someone I'm not looking at, but even someone as like Brendan Zerk Thatcher, I know they really rate him down there. Granger, Brass. There's a few players that we could really swap in that back line if these rookies don't come through. They're just a little bit more expensive. Gibbous will probably be fighting for a spot with someone like Ben Miller at Richmond. Gibbous is my only Richmond player this year. I don't really pick Richmond players in Supercoach because we're just such team orientated. We're not really a stat team, that's for sure. Isaac Chugg, there's a few alternatives here if we do need them. Anyway, on to the midfield. I'm starting with McRae this year. He's just Mr. Consistent. He's always a captain score. He never gets injured. He's just a really great player in general. Jack Steele just racks up the ball, tackles hard, can score 80 points and a half. Not much more you really need to say for that. Took Miller is probably the most interesting one. I watched him last year, and he just went from contest to contest, and every time the ball went up and then a stoppage, he'd just always appear there, and his player would just never get near him. So his player I really want to start because him, like Steele, they play a very similar game, just a real contested beast, always scoring points, and can have really big quarters and big halves. So I really like those two picks more than McRae, to be honest. But I still think these guys will probably finish top 3 in my opinion. Neal, we know what he can do. Just keep an eye on him in pre-season though. If he does get injured, I am all out of this pick. I just really hope he gets his body right because he is a potential to finish number 1. We know what he did in his Brownlow year and what he's done in previous years before that. He's been a gun for such a long time that he's just too undervalued not to pick him. Juan Francis, hoping he gets games early on, even if it's half-back or forward pocket, I'm still picking him. McRae, we saw what he did last year. Had a couple good games, probably wasn't in the right position half the time that he played. second-year player now, probably gets a bit of midfield time. You'd hope, with the young Collingwood side. Dacos, half-back. Look, I'm not expecting him to average 80, maybe that sort of 60, 70 range if he's lucky, but that's a placeholder in my team. This boy, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, Rochelle or something like that. Rachel, I'm not sure. Maybe Adelaide supporters can tell me. I really wanted a DPP swing this year with my forward line, so I put him there. He's meant to be in their best 22, and he's also their first round pick for last season, just gone. Johnson, we've heard a bit about Johnson. Apparently he was a bit of a value pick for Fremantle. Roberts and Clark are meant to be guys that get games early. Sean Darcy and Grundy for me, I suppose, probably because I end up with Tom Hickey because I went for a cheap ruck line last year, and that really killed me. So if you haven't stuffed up your rucks in previous years, don't do it this year, because you find out the hard way and you're stuck with someone like a Hickey. It's not fun when someone like Gawn's going off the head compared to him anyway. So Darcy, he scored like 190 a couple of times. Like, he's just got a ridiculous ceiling. Very injury prone. But from there, you can always downgrade, so I don't mind wasting a trade on Darcy if he has a long-term injury. Hayes, I'm hoping he gets games, because I don't want any dead rookies. I don't believe in the loophole, because we get loopholes pretty early in the season anyway. The player will get dropped. And, yeah, I just don't see the point of losing cash generation, because that's how you upgrade your side faster, is actually cash generation. And early on, you can probably bank onto these guys to go big anyway without having to worry about, oh no, I can't use a VC. So you got 3 primos like that. You're betting every day of the week. You're just picking the easiest team that they're against, who they have the best history against. Anyway, that's a story for another day. On to the forward line, go on Dunks. We know what he can do. I know after dislocating his shoulder, he was never the same. But that's because it just took confidence out of his body. And for a contested player, I understand that. I've done mine before, and it took me 6 weeks just to get it right. And then another about 3 or 4 weeks just to feel confident playing with it again. So I think he'll be fine. He would have had 6 months by then to actually have it recovered and repaired, and he'd be in the gym getting strong again. So I have no question he'll probably finish number 1 for the season, in my opinion. Taranto, a bit of a butcher. Can't stand this pick in the forward line, but he's probably going to finish top 4 in the forward line. So just got to pick it for structure-wise, knowing that you want to go 3 primos in each line at least, or else you're banking too heavily on rookies. So I got a bit tongue-tied. I saw in COVID lockdown, waiting for my results to come back. So if I do sound a bit cloudy, it's because I am, but that's not here nor there. Butters for me is the 3rd pick. You look at the start of the season, how well he did last year before he picked up injuries. He's an absolute jet. I just feel I don't want to be the guy to miss out on this pick and have to do a correction trade in round 2 and waste a trade to bring him in. So just keep an eye on the preseason if he's that, sort of half forward. If he's actually in the midfield, you just got to start him. But I just think they're going to be in that top 8, top 6 midfield forward line no matter what. Cogs, we know what he can do. I don't have the expectation thinking he's going to average 100 though. I think those days are gone. I think he'll be the low 90s for me. They did like to play him up forward a lot last year. I wouldn't be surprised again if they did that. So 260 is value, but I'm not expecting him to get past 450k. Curnow, we know about this bloke, how talented he is when he's on the park. Will he get injured again? We're not sure, but I don't mind starting with a few risks because you can trade him out to players around that price. Eliza Holland, we all know about this guy. Was a really high draft pick in, I think it was 2020, but just didn't get a game last year because he's injured. This guy, I'm really hoping gets a game. And same with Spicer. We just don't know. These guys are all just placeholders for rookies. A lot of these guys come up last minute, and you end up swapping half of them out because they don't get named. So don't worry about rookies. Probably just worry about your primos, who you're going to start, who you're not. But just in summary, to lock my players in, Lloyd's a lock, Hall's a lock. Ridley's not a lock for me, to be honest. But McRae, Steele, Miller, and Neal are locks if Neal is not injured. These two primos in here are locks. I'm not changing that. Dunkley is a lock, Butters is a lock, but Taranto's not a lock. So you've got to figure out your structure early on and don't play around with it too much because it will just really mess up your head if you just keep swapping players that other people will have. Go by your own instinct, do your own little research, and don't get sucked into some player hypes. Like I got sucked into Zeret last year, Zach Merritt that is, because his consistency. I'd actually rather big scores like a Bontempelli than someone that's consistent, because someone that can score smash really big scores out of the park are really good captain options, whereas Zeret last year was a hopeless captain option because he was just consistent, but he didn't really have the ceiling, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's my side so far going into the season. I'm sure by week 2 of the actual practice games, it will change by about 10 to 15 players. Anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well and you guys aren't in ISO lockdown like myself, but I'll catch you on the next video at some point. Have a good day. Bye.